Back in February 19th, 1861, President Lincoln made a stop at the Peekskill train station. On his way, he was President-elect Lincoln at that time, on his way for his inauguration in Washington, D.C. He had a very good friend who he had worked with, Congressman Nelson, and he stopped to see him and say a few words at the depot. We will have a reenactment at the depot. So the Excedra was built, and it overlooks the spot where President Lincoln stopped. And today, we honor President Lincoln, our 16th president, who led us through the Civil War and led us through a very bloody battle of the Civil War. But also he led this country through a very difficult time. He led the country through political crisis, a constitutional crisis, and a moral crisis. But he also kept the Union intact. So we thank him for that. He was, as I say, the greatest president of the United States, our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln. Now I'd like to turn this over to John Testa, who is our county legislator, but also John Testa is the president of the Lincoln Depot Museum. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. I want to thank the Lincoln Society for continuing this tradition in Peekskill. And we're here at the Excedra because originally members of the Lincoln Society and also Civil War veterans had this property, donated it to the city and to the Lincoln Society, which was the impetus for creating this structure here. Since the depot was privately owned and was not able to have this ceremony down there, we've been having it here. And just 2 years ago, in 2017, it was restored thanks to President Barbara Karasiotis of the Lincoln Society at that time. It was her goal to get this done, and she led us through a wonderful process of restoring this structure. The plaque by Tiffany and Company was restored, and we added pieces that were missing over the years, and really this is a beautiful spot. But now we have the opportunity for the last 10 years to go down to the actual spot at the depot, where now it's the Lincoln Depot Museum, and have our reenactment of the speech by Mr. Lincoln at the actual spot where it took place. So we're very excited about it. We see a large crowd here today. We thank you all for being here, and we hope you'll come down to the depot, hear the reenactment of the speech. We have a wonderful speaker, Kurt Moldoff, at 1 o'clock is going to give some important local history. And also come down, and if you haven't been to the museum, you'll be pleasantly surprised about how wonderful of a place it is. So thank you again for being here, and thank you to the Lincoln Society.
All right. Thank you, John. And the Lincoln Society, I will read down at the depot what the Lincoln Society was formed in 1903, but one of the things the Lincoln Society promotes patriotism. So I do believe it's appropriate at this time to please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we will pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now we have Alyssa Martin, who will sing our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner
Alyssa. That was absolutely beautiful, and thank you. Now, we have, there's no other elected officials here that I need to recognize. Okay, I don't want to get in any trouble. Okay. And now we will have Phil Miller. He will play taps for us. Thank you, Phil. Fantastic. Excellent job. And thank you for doing that for us today. Thank you. So this concludes our ceremony here. If you all please come down to the Lincoln Depot. As John has said, we have a speaker. We also have a reenactment, and we have refreshments. So be happy to see you all there. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Welcome, dear friends and neighbors, to the annual Lincoln Remembrance. Please join me. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now we are going to have Alyssa Martin sing the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you so much, Alyssa Martin. Absolutely beautiful. Very beautiful. So welcome once again, everyone. My name is Teresa Knickerbocker. I've got the great honor of being the mayor of the Village of Buchanan, and also I have the great honor this year of being the president of the Lincoln Society in Peekskill. So now I'm going to read for you what the Lincoln Society is. The Lincoln Society in Peekskill was founded in 1903, dedicated to perpetuating the name, ideals, and memory of Abraham Lincoln, and to foster and encourage patriotism. The Lincoln Society in Peekskill is the single oldest continuously active Lincoln Society in the United States. So it's a proud tradition that we have in the Lincoln Society. Now I would like to introduce elected officials in attendance. We have John Testa, who is our county legislator and also president of the Lincoln Depot Museum. Thank you, John. And we have Mike Weinberg from Senator Harkin's office. Thank you, and thank the senator also for sending you there, representing. Are there any other public officials I have missed? Oh.
I'm County Legislator Margaret Kunzio from District 3. I work with John Testa.
Great, thank you, Margaret. Welcome. Thank you. Have I missed anyone else? I hate to miss people. No? We're good. Okay, thank you. I thought about a lot what I wanted to say to honor President Lincoln today, our 16th president. I thought about maybe I could talk to you about his two greatest speeches. One was the Gettysburg Address. The other was his second inaugural address. I thought about, not many people know President Lincoln was one of 4 presidents assassinated in this country during their term. I thought about talking to you about scholars and the public still to this day feel that President Lincoln was the best president this country ever had. I also thought about the man who led this nation during a terrible civil war, during one of the bloodiest wars. A man who led this country through political crisis, moral crisis, and constitutional crisis. And still, somehow, he kept this union together. And then I thought about, I really want you to get to know the man himself better. And so what I decided to do today is read you some of his quotes, which are quite interesting. And I always enjoy reading them myself. So I have about 10 quotes that I'd like to share with you today, as soon as I put my glasses on. Let's take the gloves off. Uh-oh.
In a good way.
In a good way, yes. So, let's see. Let's start with some upbeat. There's so many quotes. If you really look, you'll see there's many quotes on his. On character, in the end, it's not the years in your life that count, it's the life in your ears. Under morals, whenever I hear anyone arguing for slavery, I feel a strong impulse to see if it tried on him personally. A friend is one who has the same enemies as you have. If you want to test a man's character, give him power. Do I not destroy my enemies when I make them my friends? Those who look for bad in people will surely find it. When you reach the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. And then when I read these next, it's about the nation. Government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. And that was from the Gettysburg Address. A house divided cannot itself stand. We, the people, are the rightful masters of both Congress and the courts, not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the men who pervert the Constitution. Don't interfere with anything in the Constitution. That must be maintained, for it is the only safeguard of our liberties. Also from his second inaugural speech, he said, with malice toward none, this was toward the end of the Civil War, with malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right, Let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds. And also, I don't know how many of you know that, but that's also the motto for the VA. The one that really is really pertinent to today, very pertinent to today, and I'm going to leave you with this last one. America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we destroyed ourselves. So something to think about there. So I hope you've enjoyed. You get to see the president's wittiness, sense of humor, and his eloquent style of speech. So thank you. And now I'd like to introduce John Testa, the county legislator, once again, and Lincoln Depot Museum president. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Let me get out of your way.
One of my favorite memes online is one of Lincoln's latest quotes. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. I like that one. It pops up every once in a while. Welcome to the Lincoln Depot Museum here in Peekskill. This is probably the largest crowd we've ever had for this event. We're very grateful that you're here. We're very grateful to partner with the Lincoln Society in Peekskill, which I'm a past president of, proudly, to have the opportunity to have this reenactment here on the actual location, somewhere on this property. We don't know exactly where it was, that he gave the speech that you're going to hear in a few minutes. The depot is fully restored and but has, as you can tell, been turned into the museum. There's a lot of exhibits throughout the museum. Some of them may be hard for you to see today with the crowd, so hopefully you'll come back. If you have any questions about any of the displays, just ask. There's a story behind every one of them. And really what we've tried to do in this museum is obviously it's focused on President Lincoln, but it's focused on New York and the indispensable relationship between Lincoln, New York, and this area. There's a very web of information and individuals such as Chauncey Depew and others, Henry Ward Beecher. Those of you who know the history of Lincoln will know those names. If not, make sure you learn a little bit today. And maybe you'll go back and do some research on those. But we've tried to make those connections because New York, and this area especially, and the individuals here, were very instrumental not only in his election, but his re-election. And also, New York was the state that had the most soldiers in the war. And we have an honor to them as well. So thank you for being here. And enjoy. And we have a lot of events throughout the year. If you're not on a mailing list, please consider doing that if you want to become a member. We have our website, LincolnDepotMuseum.org, or you can give us your email here today and we'll add you to our email list. And if you're here for the first time, please enjoy and please come back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. And I'd like to also introduce, we have many members in attendance today, the Lincoln Society and Peekskill members. If you could please either raise your hands or please stand up if you're sitting. All right. Thank you very much.
I was remiss in naming the board members that are here from the Lincoln Depot Museum: Kathy Pisani, Paul Martin, Jeff Sweet is here somewhere. And we're just very grateful that you're all here. And I want to thank, I just have to single out my colleague Margaret Kunzia who came up. We've talked about this museum and history all the time, and I'm glad she's here. Thank you. And her husband.
Thank you, John. Thank you. We will now have Mark Aarons read a morning poem written by Walt Whitman in 1865 to honor Abraham Lincoln. No, my dress keeps getting in the way, sorry.
See if they'll stay. Good afternoon. I had to check the watch. You know, some of you may know that Abe Lincoln was probably the greatest president, but he was also a terrific lawyer. He traveled the 8th Circuit through Illinois with several of his fellow attorneys, often sharing housing and rooms at night. But he was also known for a tremendous sense of humor and a great storyteller, which they say he got from his father Thomas. One of the scenes in one of the courtrooms was Abe was finishing up his summation on a case, and the lawyer that he was fighting against was only 5 foot tall. At the end of the case, the judge turned to Abe and said, "Do you have anything else to add?" And Abe extended his long body up and said, "Your Honor, that's the long and the short of it." When Abe was so unceremoniously assassinated, Walt Whitman was touched to the core. Walt Whitman was a huge supporter of the Unionist cause. In response, he wrote probably one of his most famous poems, only second probably to Leaves of Grass. And it goes as follows. "O Captain, my Captain, our fearful trip is done. The ship has weathered every wrack. The prize we sought is won. The port is near. The bells I hear, the people all exulting. While follow eyes the steady keel, the vessel grim and daring. But oh heart, 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 oh the bleeding drops of red. Where on the deck my captain lies, fallen, cold and dead. O Captain, my Captain, rise up and hear the bells. Rise up, for you the flag is flung, for you the bugle trills. For you bouquets and ribbon wreaths, for you the shores are crowding, for you they call, the swaying mast, their eager faces turning. Here, Captain, dear father, this arm beneath your head, it is some dream that on the deck you've fallen cold and dead. My captain does not answer, his lips are pale and still. My father does not feel my arm, he has no pulse nor will. The ship is anchored safe and round, in voyage closed and done. From fearful trip the victor ship comes in with object won. Exult, O shores, and ring, O bells, but I with mournful tread walk the deck my captain lies, fallen, cold, and dead. Thank you.
Lincoln was elected president in November of 1860. During his trip from Illinois to Washington for his inauguration, he traveled by train east to Albany and then south through the Hudson Valley to New York City, Philadelphia, and Baltimore. At a stop in Peekskill at the Peekskill train station on February 19, 1861, Lincoln addressed a supportive crowd from a specially prepared platform erected on a baggage car. There, he sensed the difficult times the nation appeared to be headed for. I think, here comes President-elect Lincoln now and his very good friend, Congressman Nelson, who represented this area.
Attention! Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
So nice to see you, Congressman
Thank
Nelson.
you.
And President Lincoln, so nice to see you. Thank you for stopping here in Peekskill.
Thank you for having me. Mr. President, in common with your fellow citizens generally, we appreciate the difficulties which probably will attend you in the discharge of the important duties about to devolve upon you as Chief Magistrate of this nation. We have, however, full confidence in the soundness of your head and the purity of your heart, and that with the aid of that divine providence which you have invoked, you will be equal to every emergency which may arise in this critical condition of the nation. You have our hopes and prayers that your administration will prove as prosperous and happy to our beloved country and as honorable to yourself as the difficulties and dangers which now threaten you are great. Associated as we have been in the councils of the nation, I need not assure you of my pleasure in this meeting you again and bearing to you this message from my neighbors and friends. Mr. President, welcome to Peekskill.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry I have only a moment to stand with you and to thank you for this cordial reception tendered by your authorities. In regard to the difficulties that lie before me and to which your president has alluded, let me say that if I shall only be as generously and unanimously sustained as this meeting would seem to indicate I shall be, in my management of public affairs I shall not fail. But without that sustaining arm, I'm quite sure that the difficulties which lie before me will not only be too great for my humble self, but too great for any individual man. I thank you then, as I have thanked the assembled thousands upon various occasions as I have stopped along my route for such demonstrations which, if they mean anything, means that I shall be supported not only by the party who gave me election, but by the free, intelligent, and earnest support of all of the parties in the country.
Thank you so much, Congressman Nelson and President Lincoln. Godspeed on your journey, sir.
Thank you.
So, we are going to have now Alyssa Martin sing Battle Hymn of the Republic. Gloves are coming off again.
Try my hardest.
Here we go.
Oh, here we go. That's a cheat sheet. Now that I found it, I probably won't even need it. My eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. I have seen him in the watchfires of 100 circling camps. They have builded him an altar in the evening dews and dance. I can read his righteous sentence by the dim and flaring lamps. His days marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. He has sounded forth the trumpet that shall never call retreat. He is sifting out the hearts of men before his judgment seat. Oh, be swift, my soul, to answer him. Be jubilant, my feet. Our God is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. as he died to make men holy, let us die to make men free, while God is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
It's always beautiful, Alyssa. Thank you so much. I'd like to now thank President Lincoln, Michael Macedonia. Very good, Michael. Also, Bob McFarland as Congressman Nelson. Thank you very much. Good job, Karen. Our parents, thank you. It was beautiful. We're at the pond. Thank you. Alyssa, of course. Alyssa sang it. Thank you. Her father, Paul Martin, right next to Congressman Nelson. I'd like to thank the Lincoln Society members that helped me here today. Janice Malloy at the table. Thank you, Janice. Vice President Kathy Pisani and Barbara Karasiotis for refreshments in the back. I did say John Testa. I don't want to forget him. We're having this event in this Lincoln Depot, and I appreciate it. No, I can't say it enough. Next, we're going to have Phil Miller. Phil, what are you going to play for us today? Taps or?
You asked me to play taps. You already did.
Okay, then,
Hallelujah.
you know.
That was marvelous. Thank
Perfect.
you so much.
I think I have thanked everyone. So after this, we're going to, if you haven't had refreshments already, please enjoy some refreshments. And the program will start at 1 o'clock. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming, and especially thank you for coming.
I'm too honored to be here to honor President Lincoln and, of course, the men who served our country so admirably during the Civil War. So here's my little honorarium.
That's wonderful, and thank you, Phil. We always appreciate it. We do this every year, so we look forward to seeing you again next year and other programs that we have here at the Lincoln Depot. Thank you.